WRHU
Radio Hofstra University.
88.7 FM WRHU. I'm Max Sacco. As we continue our Alumni of the Week series, this week we are joined by Spring 06 graduate Pete McCarthy. Pete, thank you very much for joining us this week.
No, it's great to be here. I'm afraid my Zoom background rating isn't going to be very high here with just a door and a wall, but we're building up as we go along here.
Hey, I'm in the same boat. I am currently behind the wall as well, so whatever you got is whatever you got. But Pete, first question, and I think kind of a nice basic one to start with. What has kind of been your broadcast career through Hofstra, and then take us to when you get to your professional career? What's that been like as well?
Yeah, it's been a kind of a long ways now, as all of a sudden you're 15 years removed from college or thereabout. It happens quickly. But yeah, when I was at WRHU, I became the sports director in 2005, was able to call over 100 games. It was an unbelievable experience to get all of those reps and opportunity and to be close to New York City. And in 2005, I was a junior. I was able to connect with Vinny McCucci, who was another Hofstra alum, and he helped get me in at MLB.com. And MLB.com at the time was doing highlights that were going out onto cell phones, which sounds pretty tame now, but at the time it was kind of ridiculous. And I actually didn't know anyone who had the capability of watching the baseball highlights I was doing voiceovers for on their phone, but we did it all night for 2005. And I think what it really was a build up to the iPhone coming out soon. And they wanted to make sure they were up and running and ready to go. And so I started doing a lot of, on-air internet work at MLB.com. I worked there for 9 years. I covered 5 World Series, was in the winning clubhouse for all 5 of those, which was awesome. Traveled around the country, all-star games and the whole 9 yards. And then I got an opportunity at WOR in New York, and they had acquired the rights to the Mets. So I became their talk show host before the games, after the games. I did a sports talk show during the week in the off season when the Mets were off as well. It was a tremendous opportunity working with someone like Howie Rose, who's one of my broadcasting idols growing up, as the voice of the Mets and the Islanders as well. So that was unbelievable. I did that for 5 years. And, the last couple of years been freelancing and bouncing around a little bit here, a little bit there at WFAN. I've been on 1010 Wins, WCBS, SNY, television-wise, Sirius XM. I've just, been able to do a lot of different things and kind of check off some boxes I never thought I'd get the opportunity to check off. So it's been a fun ride here.
So definitely a fun career to take you around the U.S. and with baseball.
Yeah, what I was able to do at MLB.com, especially being in my 20s, was just such a fantastic opportunity. I'd always been told, go to Boise, right? You go to a small market and you work your way up. And I was fortunate enough because Hofstra is so close to New York City. I was able to go to school and then work in the city at night. And I was able to do that for, about a year and a half. And, there were some nights where I didn't sleep a whole lot, but it just gave me such a launching off point to be able to do things in MLB.com. The internet was kind of like the small market at the time, and I was able to grow with it. So it was a tremendous opportunity. And, again, wouldn't have made it there without the reps I got at WRHU and the opportunity and connections that Hofstra provided as well.
Now, Pete kind of walked into the next question a little bit, but why did you pick Hofstra and WRHU? I know it's a bit far back, but why did you go with those two?
Well, they gave me the most money. So that was, I was a free agent, and I applied to a number of schools, whether it be a place like Syracuse. I applied St. John's, SUNY Buffalo. I don't even remember at this point, but there were 7 schools in all. And I basically said, well, whoever gives me the most money, that's where I'm going to go. And for a while it was St. John's, and I ended up getting into the honors college at Hofstra, and that helped me out a lot financially. But I was pretty sure I was going to go to St. John's. I was going to major in sports management. And then Hofstra, the honors college, allowed the students to come in and you could spend a night on campus with a student. So that seemed like a pretty cool opportunity just to see what college life was going to be all about. So I had the chance to do that. And the person that I was paired up with had a friend who worked at the radio station at WRHU, and I wasn't terribly familiar with it, but they brought me to the station. And once I saw WRHU, because I saw what they were working with at St. John's, and I don't want to knock it, but what WRHU is working with, and 15 years later, forget about it, I barely recognize the place now, was just off the charts. So once I saw what you could do at Hofstra, I really doubled back to it. And then I saw at the baseball field one day, there were two student broadcasters, WRHU guys, probably got some friends with now that I didn't know at the time, that were calling a game. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is where I want to be. And to have the opportunity to, basically for a year, be the voice of Hofstra women's basketball, Hofstra men's basketball, to call a great conference run where my senior year, they played in the CAA final. They beat George Mason. That was the year George Mason went to the Final Four. They beat George Mason twice that year, actually, once in the conference tournament, and then had a couple of postseason victories in the NIT as well over Nebraska and St. Joe's. And I got to call that game at St. Joe's with the St. Joe's band right behind me. I had like a trombone handle over my shoulder the whole time. But to call games in that kind of atmosphere, that was, again, fantastic. And I was fortunate the timing that I had there for a variety of reasons. Also, having someone like Jared Greenberg a year ahead of me and able to help, I think develop me and give me an opportunity to know what the business is about, what the fundamentals of broadcasting are about. Jared was big with that. And obviously Ed Ingles, who's an absolute legend at Hofstra, and having the chance to learn under him for many years. There's no way that I would have had any of the success that I've been able to enjoy in my career, if not for the opportunity to work with Ed those 4 years.
Now, you talk a lot about RHU and kind of like why you chose it, why you went there. But now, I think the bigger question, what did RHU teach you and prepare you for when you went to the professional field?
Well, I think you know how to do a broadcast. It's easy to think, well, I'm just going to show up, turn the mic on, and go. And you do a show like The Locker Room for an hour, and you see all of the prep work that goes into that show. That is a week's worth of games and knowledge and following what's happening in Hofstra sports. And then the night of, we were getting in at 4:00 for an 8:00 show and doing 4 hours of prep work, whether that's the quick sheets and making sure that the hosts are up on what's going on, whether that's putting the production together, whether that's writing an update. It all takes a lot of work, and you don't realize how to handle that workload and to work with others until you're actually put in the situation where, hey, 15 of you are going to work together and put together an hour-long show. And some people are going to be unhappy about their roles on a given week. And just negotiating all of those kinds of things and working with others, being the sports director. I never want to have that kind of job again, but I did it for a year, and you manage people, and it can be difficult. You have to make tough decisions, but I'm glad I had that experience because I now understand to some degree what it's like to be the boss at all the places I work, and try to understand, all right, like I didn't get the shift that I wanted or whatever it might be, but his job is not easy, and I'm not the only one here. So I think all of those things were huge, but I would say the big one is just working in a professional environment with other people closely. And that's what WRHU is. And the way that I treated it, it's a professional environment. And I've been able to take all of that right into my career, where I didn't feel like I had to relearn a whole lot of things and how to handle people, the, I guess, corporate aspect of broadcasting. I was ready for all of that.
RHU still teaches that today. I know I've learned it for sure. And, I think you guys set the foundation for us to learn it just in a different way. But
yeah, you got to negotiate with Bruce,
Exactly. But I think the big final question here, Pete, is we have a lot of new kids every year. RHU is a big station. A lot of people come in from out of state. I know I'm an out of stater. We have in-state. Everyone comes into RHU hoping to become that next big person. What is your best advice you have for some newer members or, people who are just joining the training class? Your best piece of advice you have for these new generation of RHU talents?
Get reps, get involved. I spent almost all of my free time at the station. That conference room, I know it's a strange time and it's probably not the way that it was when I was there, clearly. But that was where I lived, where we had lunch and hung out and made fun of each other, whatever it was. But you want to get reps on air. You want to get the experience of what it is to prepare for a broadcast, to deliver a broadcast, to execute a broadcast. You want to have tape that you can listen back to and be honest with yourself. What do you have to be better at? It's easy to hand it off to somebody else and say, hey, can you listen to this for me and tell me what's wrong? But nobody's going to be tougher on you than yourself. And while you don't want to beat yourself up, a lot of times, even when you think something's terrible, when you listen back to it, it's usually not as bad as you thought it was. And unfortunately, when you think something's great, it's usually not as good as you thought it was either. But it's good to learn those things and to get a feel for yourself for how you can improve, how you can be better. And you can't get better if you're not giving yourself reps. I know even doing news was a good experience for me at times to, put together the copy, read it, deliver. Obviously I enjoyed doing it with the sports updates a little bit more, and that was more personal to me and something I still continue to do at some of the places I work. But just take it for all it's worth. It goes by fast. You think you're going to be in college forever. And I know I missed a semester, that first fall semester. I didn't get in. I was waitlisted. So I only had 3.5 years at WRHU, and I made sure to take advantage of all of it and, certainly get in there, get involved, and do everything that you can.
Well, Pete, that's about all the time we have. Ladies and gentlemen, Pete McCarthy, class of 2006, one of our bigger alumni here in the New York area, really giving us everything we need to know about baseball. Pete, thank you very much for joining us today.